Hello everyone. In today's video, we're continuing our brief series on the ATR with the rest of the complete flight. We're going to go ahead and get this aircraft started up. We're going to fly down to Manchester, fly a quick little RNAV, and then put this thing back on the ground. Let's get started. So at this point, everything is all plugged in, ready to go. It's just a matter of getting everything all nice and started up here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and get this aircraft ready. So I'm going to check to make sure my parking brake is set, which it is. But before I do anything else, I just want to quickly run over to my displays and make sure everything looks okay. So to do that, I'm going to come down here where my display buttons are. I'm going to go ahead and press the perf button. What that will do is that'll bring down a little screen that'll give us all the performance data we're going to need to know for our flight. For example, you can see all my different speeds for icing. You can see my different things for approach, and everything is basically ready to go. One of the options you actually have here is you can change the default takeoff torque if you need to do. Now, if I float over here to performance, actually, sorry, payload was perfect, you can actually see a pretty good idea of all those different pieces of information on the side. And of course, you have a little definition of all that, should you need it for that particular purpose. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and close everything off. We don't need anybody basically kind of looking at that. Everything looks good to me. I'm going to confirm my takeoff data. That looks good. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go ahead and open up the map button. The reason the map button is amazing is if you take a look carefully, we actually have a map now. So if I actually zoom in, you can see the entire airport, including our lovely runway 29, which is going to make this a snap in order to basically find where we need to go here, which makes it very, very simple for us. So we're going to go ahead and get everything started now. Pretty easy to do as far as that goes. I'm going to come over here and flip on our two fuel pumps. Remember, we are on ground power right now. We're going to have to make the transition over from that. Hopefully we don't lose all our avionics when we do it. So now that I've gone ahead and got fuel pumps running, it's just a matter of getting everything started. I'll come float down here. You've got all your different options. I'm going to go ahead and do this. So let's see here. We're going to be start A today. We're on an odd day. It looks pretty good to me. I always like to look down here and just check to make sure these are secure. It looks good. And we're going to go ahead and notice you'll see the engine page is already brought up for us. The number we're going to be looking for, of course, is going to be our N2 information here. And if I kind of look between the two, you can see how all the information is like 6 different places. So just be mindful of these 2 different ratings for this one. So we're good to go. I'm going to come up here, ready to start. Pretty easy. I'm going to start with the right engine. I'm going to click it once. What you're going to see here is you're going to see NH is going to come up. We're waiting for about 12% here. And I can actually, in the real world, you probably wait until this gets even higher than 12. Hold my mouse over it. I'm just going to wheel my mouse wheel forward on that. You're going to get a bunch of angry little lights. What's going to happen, of course, at this point is it's going to go ahead and fire that up. Oil pressure comes up. Temperature's coming up. We're just going to make sure that stays somewhat good. Actually, it's pretty good. That's nice. Going to the outside, you can see that right engine is now starting to turn over. So one of the important things here is we really want to disconnect that ground power as soon as we can. Now that we have one engine turning, we're going to give it a few moments to basically finish spooling up here and stabilize, because once it is stabilized, that's going to make our lives a little bit simpler for the purposes of starting the other engine without doing it on ground power. Because that little transfer between ground power and basically a ship power can be a little complicated sometimes. So you've got to be careful with that. So right now you'll notice my DC generator is still faulting. You'll notice my AC generator is still faulting. The reason for that, of course, is we are in this nice little kind of feather mode here. We have to actually flip it up to auto if we want to be able to get anything out of it. So I'm actually going to do just like that. What that's going to do is you're going to see not really a lot of change here. We're going to get a little bit of a torque indication here. You're going to get a little propeller speed change. You're going to get a low pitch warning here, which is perfectly natural. Don't stress about that. But the important thing is if I look above my head, in a few moments, my generators are going to be able to kick in, allowing me to switch to that onboard power, which is very important for us. If we needed to, we can actually come down here and hit the system display. And you can actually see how everything is working here. And again, there's different system displays. I believe if you click your mouse right, yeah, I always get it wrong on this one. There it is. If you kind of click your mouse here, you can actually surf through the different systems. And you can see very clearly that we're having basically a DC generator fault on the side, which makes sense because of the fact that we're still running on that external power. So I'm going to go ahead and switch off of external power here. And you'll notice as soon as I do, the DC generator now catches on. You'll also see the AC generator now catches on as well. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect that. I'm going to go ahead and ask them to disconnect, and we're ready to start the other engine. Starting the other engine, it's a snap. You just come up here and click that button. I forgot to turn on the bacon light. Sorry, everybody. Let's turn on that bacon light. We're going to come over here and look at our engine power. If you can't see it right away, remember you can always go to those pages for it as well. Go to my systems page. There we go. Now we can see it spinning up. Delightful. Nice. RPM coming up. You can see good speed, good speed. Temperatures are looking pretty good there. Temperatures are looking pretty good over here as well. Looks good, looks good. We're getting some warnings, but that's always going to happen. You're going to get a DC generator warning, and the reason it's going to do that for you is, like I said, it takes a moment to boot. Your AC generator on that side is not going to kick in right away. Like I said, it's not. But one thing that is kicking on is, if you look over here, is we're actually starting to get some warmth in here. It's about time. I'm freezing. All right, looking there once, looking twice, engines come up. You'll notice we have no torque available yet. So that's perfectly fine. Give it a moment to stabilize. Pop that into the auto position. As soon as we do that, you'll see that the torque pops up just like that. Looks good, looks good, looks good, looks good. Looks solid, actually looks really good. We have some hydraulic pressure. Everything's flowing through us quite nicely now. If we wanted to go through, we could surf through each system's page one by one, just to confirm that everything's working. Let's see what we have as far as this goes. Oxygen supply, everything there is looking very nice. Delta pressure on, off. We have this set correctly. Everything's good. Absolutely. Actually, this is set correctly. Nice. That never happens. So now we're good to go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go flip on the map mode here. I'm just going to press that button. And what that will do is give us a nice little display. Remember, we're taking off 2-9er today, so we got to kind of do one of those things. It's going to be kind of lame. We could also do a midfield takeoff if we want to be lazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and ask them to remove the wheel chocks. One of those little details that people miss, and you get stuck. Kick the brake. So now we got a problem. I can wiggle my controls all day, every day, but how on earth am I going to back this thing up? So one thing we could do is we could ask them nicely to back up, but that's just not how I do things. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to hit my reverse button on my joystick, and I'm going to put us in reverse. Now, I do not recommend doing this. This is not an approved procedure. Why are you watching me do this? Why do you even think I'm doing something I'm not supposed to? What is this, the 1980s? Oh, we don't do this. I ran like 6 people over when I did that. Now, do not hit the brakes. If you hit the brakes, you'll land on your tail. And there we are. Delightful. Let's get going. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start making our way over to our destination. Give it just a little bit of power. It takes very, very little to get this thing going. It is, especially this version with the short takeoff and landing capabilities, there's no shortage of short distance on this. Is that a technical term? I don't know. All right, let's see here. Looking good, looking good. Just checking all my speeds, making sure it's the way that I want it to be. I like that. If we needed to at any point, we could come down to perf init, and we could just confirm that all of our values are exactly. Whoop, yep, that looks good, looks good. Looks good, looks good. Fantastic. I like that. I like to leave it on the flight plan, personally. Flight plan page. Nice. Cool. Let's go. Now, the throttle on this one, as I mentioned last time, is a little different. It's basically going to be a combination of an Airbus throttle as well as kind of like this, like not 0 point. Like right now, it says that on manpower, if you look in the bottom left corner here, if I pull my throttle all the way to 0, then it says idle. So you have to kind of be mindful that there's like a little, almost like a detent you get kind of caught on there. So if I push it forward a little bit, it gives me man. Back, it gives me idle. You just got to kind of listen for that little click in your right ear there to know that you got it. While we're zipping along here, I'm going to go transition my body to the middle of the plane and start getting ready. This would be our trim. We got our altitude select right here. Just going to pop it up to our first altitude, which is at 1,500 feet. But since we're going right to Kennebunk in about a second, I'm just going to go ahead and toss that up to 6,000 feet right there. Delightful. We can go ahead and snap on the flight director if we want. This is all good. We can actually select what system we're doing. Obviously, flight computer is what we want to do. Make sure we've done that. Good idea on the heading selector to set it to that initial runway heading, which I believe was 252, if I recall correctly. All right, there we go. Go ahead and synchronize that with the current direction I'm heading, and we're in great shape. Go ahead and pop down to click of flaps there. Give it some victory flaps. Nice. Making our way down here. I remember when I was flying here in the real world on a Cessna 182 with a bunch of people in the plane. And they basically said, you could do your run up over here on the left. And I'm like, what? So like, me having no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, parking like the 182 over here, like used to small airport procedures. So it's like another airliner was coming up. I'm like, please don't hit me, airliner, please. But they were very awesome and very respectful and made my life much easier, which is one of the reasons why I'm here today. Love it. So now if you were Punk, of course, you put your airplane in reverse rather than going for the brakes. Like I said, that's a Punk. So let's do it. Isn't brakes awesome? So one of the things we want to do is we're getting ready for takeoff here. So we need to make sure a couple little things get done. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shut off the gust lock. Without the gust lock, we are in a world of hurt. We are not going to be able to use full power. It's going to scream at us. Another thing we're going to make sure is our condition lever is in the automatic position. We're going to make sure our flaps are set for the appropriate takeoff level, which they are. Flaps now, by the way, it's over here on this side, 10 degrees plenty for us. So we could use more if we were really, really short takeoff. I'm going to confirm that all of my autopilot stuff is the way that I want it. Obviously, we don't have a lot going on here. I can push the flight director, nothing comes on because I haven't really set anything. I can come over here and hit standby. That's not going to do anything. I can pick nav. A lot of these things, we're going to make sure yaw damper is off. We definitely don't want to take off with that in case something comes up. It's kind of our responsibility. All right, let's go. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing on the runway. I'll actually do the respectful thing and go ahead and flip on our landing lights this time. Nice and easy. Again, this is a very short takeoff and landing plane, so be mindful of that and don't go too hard on the brakes. So we're going to use as much runway as we can, which is just kind of standard operating procedure for any plane. Yes, normally we don't run over the little lights. Those things are $5,000, and they also tend to total your airplane, so be careful. Looks good to me. I'm just going to kind of spin us around. Remember, this is a short airplane. VR, folks, you're in for a real treat with this plane because it is just so darn small. And there we go. Get ourselves lined up. Delightful. All right, let's give everybody the wiggle waggle. Make sure it's working. Cool. We're going to check our recall real fast to make sure I didn't miss anything, which I usually do. Probes Alpha, we're getting one last warning for our heating system. So let's run up top and go hit those real fast. We're going to get a couple warning lights here. We don't need any of these. It's actually warmed up very nicely. It's actually 18 Celsius, which isn't bad. Final cockpit preparation. Everything is good to go. If we wanted to, we could actually come down here, and there's this little validate button. So what you can do is you can actually go up and down. This is for your procedures. If I wanted to go to the different spot, you can validate, validate, validate. So you're just going through and checking to make sure everything's there. And you'll actually see that it adjusts the screens as you go through validating each of the checklist items. Isn't that fantastic? That is so cool. Go ahead and clear that out. Everything's ready to go. Delightful. We are a twin-engine plane, and it has a very bizarre throttle system here, at least from what I'm used to with the thing. You'll notice it's got this little kind of detent, and it's got this little kind of max power. When you push this thing forward, you're trying to get this little knob to lock into this detent here. And the easiest way to do that is if you look in the bottom corner here, I'm going to hold down right alt and click. Let me go ahead and open up the display so you can see it very clearly. Yeah, there you go. You can see it very nicely. What you're looking for here is basically for the system to tell you you're in that mode. So see how it says man, man? Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. See how we're starting to crouch a little bit here? There's notch. Release the brakes, and off we go. So notch is basically auto, if you want to imagine it a different way. All right, let's hit it. 60, 70, 80 knots, cross-referenced. 100 knots. Go ahead and loosen up the front wheel. In the air, gear up. This thing just goes. Love it. All right, we're just going to maintain runway heading. You can use that very easily if you look in your bottom right corner of your screen. You just got to kind of follow that. We're going to gently climb here. We are climbing like a cannonball. This is fabulous how steep this thing climbs. Ignore the Space Invaders. The Space Invaders just means I'm giving a little bit of trim. We're going to go ahead and gently bring up that notch of flaps, and we're just going to kind of settle just a little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. All right, let's do my last couple of security checks here. Delightful. Tap my trim a little bit, get it all nice and stabilized, and we're ready to switch over to our climb power. Click, click, just like that. We're just going to snap it right to climb power, and you're going to hear everything get sad because it's a big reduction of power here. There we go. Give myself a little bit of trim, make things a little bit easier. We're going to go ahead and get some automatic pilot to help us out here. I've armed LNAV here, which is exactly what I want. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and arm my IAS hold, and when I'm ready, I'm just going to press the AP button. Once you do that, of course, make sure things make sense. So I'm going to come down here and go switch over to my navigational display, which is going to give me a little display. And you can see we are right on course here. And we're going to be taking that nice, gentle right turn in just a few moments. And we're going to be basically heading along the route. Now, there's Route 95, by the way. Route 1 is over here on the left if you're looking for it. So you can see, looking over on our left, we're doing about 168, 169 knots. So that's a pretty good speed. We have indicated airspeed hold mode on, and we're locked to 167. If we wanted to, of course, we could adjust that by adjusting the vertical speed wheel here. If we need to do a little bit of nose up, we could kind of crank it. If we need to do a little nose down, we could crank it. Again, depending on what it is you're trying to achieve with that particular flight. So now that we're in the air and we're kind of on our way, again, we're a very short flight here, so I'm just going to go snap off some of my landing lights and things like that. We're not going to need them, even though we're well within 10 nautical miles of a major airport, kind of a thing like that. All right, so we're just going to run through and check to make sure everything's looking pretty good for us. One thing we did not mention that I did between videos is I did turn on the transponder. Of course, if we want to do that, hit the surveillance button, and it's going to bring that up here. Actually, no, I did not. So there's your opportunity. I forgot to mention that earlier as well. You also have your TCAS controls when you bring up this particular page as well. There's my little warning to tell me I'm getting real close to my selected altitude. You can see my altitude constraint and my hold point is actually about the same spot. So my calculations were half okay today. They were half okay, so not bad. While we're going up, of course, it's a good time to go take a look to make sure everything is behaving the way you expect it to behave. That's just a general rule for basically any airplane, to be honest. If this were like a regular piston airplane, you'd see me basically scrambling to go ahead and checking to make sure the mixture is right and I'm using fuel evenly and all that. All right, taxi and takeoff lights. So we've taken care of all that. Yeah, takeoff configuration. We've already done all that. That was before takeoff. I'm not going to worry about it too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and hit my systems button. Good time to go take a look how everything's doing. We are pressurizing. We're on auto pressurization. If we didn't need to, we actually have a button over here. We could basically shut it off if we want to really blow everybody's eardrums. We're not like that, right? Like, you're not like that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and press the system button again. When you do that, it brings you to electrical buses. You can see everybody's happily generating, so that's working fine for me. System, and now that we're at a cruise altitude, I'm actually going to quickly come over here and set my power to cruise mode. And what that will do is select my power for me automatically. It's actually pretty darn cool how that works. Surprise, it's going to cause a problem. We'll get there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check my hydraulics. Looks good to me. I like that. Go to our next page here. Take a look here. The engines are running smoothly, about 88. Obviously, in the real world, the two engines will act differently, so this is a bit of a surprise. And of course, we've got plenty of fuel in those fuel tanks. So one of the things you're probably observing is I haven't touched the throttle yet. I simply told it to use my cruise power. But the other thing you're probably observing is the fact that we're creeping dangerously close to our red line speed. Yes, there is not an auto throttle on this. So if I just say, hey, do this kind of a thing like that, it's going to race, basically, and get us in all sorts of nasty trouble. There's a speed hold button here. And when we hit about 240 here, we can mash that. And it's interesting. You'll see what I mean when I hit that button. So just kind of running through. Actually, we can just clear this if we want to. Clear. I think that should be good. Yeah, procedure pending. Good. Everything's basically waiting for me to select which one of the procedures I want to use, kind of a thing like that. And go ahead and push the speed hold button. And you'll notice it doesn't do anything special for us. So we don't get like some special whatever mode or anything. You actually have to reach in and set those things by hand, which is not a bad thing because we'll basically slowly continue to accelerate until we cross our speed. And that's going to give us all sorts of problems later on. So I'm going to go ahead and take the throttle into my own hands. I'm just going to reduce power on my own a little bit. 240 is plenty. Oh my gosh, this thing is so sensitive. Like the usable speed area I have is like either one or like too fast or not enough. Like it's incredible the difference in settings there. Now the cool thing, of course, you can push past notch, but I shouldn't have to. So we're on our way, heading right over to Manchester. So let's go ahead and zoom out just a little bit here. I think this is plenty. Looks good to me. Actually, we could zoom out even more than that. This is nice in the real world. You just reach down, push the button. You don't have to like think about it. But what you'll see here is my top-up descent is right over yonder, which isn't too far from here, and it's expecting us to go down to 2,900 feet. Now, when I come down here, I love how this stuff is constantly updating. Like, this is just so cool. Coming down here, you can see WAVBO 2126, and you can see runway 24 about 2,000, so that's about right. Coming down here, just checking the end of our flight plan. We'll switch it to altitude mode. It's expecting, that's an interesting altitude to expect. But we can see our minimum altitude is 236, but of course, we're looking at 1,800 feet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pre-select 1,800 feet. Again, this is a super-duper short flight, so I'm not going to go too crazy on a lot of the little details here. There we go. Let's take a look. 1,800 feet, check, chickadee check, before we briggity wreck. Delightful. So all we have to do now is when we get a little bit closer is we have to tell our aircraft to start its descent down to WAVBO. Now, the cool thing is you'll notice we have a VNAV button. So if I hit the VNAV button, you will notice that nothing happens. And that is because it is advisory VNAV. It is still your responsibility to tell the airplane how to get words going, kind of a thing. So always kind of be a little bit aware of that when you start mangling buttons, is they won't necessarily do what you expect them to do. So let's get to the top of descent. So what you'll notice here is you've got this little marker right here. And this guy right here is giving you advice as far as to what you need to do with our aircraft. And one of the things you'll notice is it's just jumped down to give us a heads up to say, we need to start descending, get the nose down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to indicated airspeed hold, and I'm just going to pull the throttle back here. Now remember, when you pop it out a notch, you're going to watch your RPM drop substantially here. Now our speed setting, or power setting rather, is going to dictate how quickly we descend. Now I pulled my throttle back about a centimeter, and you can see just how quickly that has an impact on the performance of it. Now I know, for example, that I'm just a little bit too much descent rate because I'm seeing this thing basically kind of hike like that. So I'm just going to fiddle with my throttle just a little bit to try to get that to be nice and centered here. You can see I'm still a little high. So again, I'll pull my throttle back a little bit more, trying to get it down. There it goes. Hey, there we go. We're starting to get where we need to be. Fabulous. So now one of the cool things is because of the approach direction we're coming from, we're actually going to be able to switch to approach hold on this pretty much as soon as we get closer. But one of the problems is we're going really fast here. So now we're going to take advantage of the fact that this aircraft has such an amazing, amazing capability. Again, I pulled my throttle back quite substantially there. You can see that. And now we're really, really nice. We're basically perfect right now, even though we're pretty darn close to WAVBO, which are supposed to be 2,900 feet. Go ahead and reduce that throttle even more. We want to get a lot lower. Let's go ahead and pull that sucker back. Now, when it comes to approach speed, one of the nice things is we have our payload page, which is going to be helping us out a little bit here for determining these things. So coming down here, you can see all of our different options. You can see our maximum speeds, our minimum speeds, things like that. Coming into performance, you can actually see or calculate of your landing data. 35 reverse thrust, dry landing conditions. A VGA, you can see our go-around speed is 114. Our approach speed is going to be 101 knots with 35 degrees of flaps. Awesome. So I'm just going to pull the throttle back a little more here. We need to get a lot more descent, because if you look out the window, you can actually already see Manchester basically waiting for us here. So we could actually pull that all the way to idle. And when you pull it to idle, it's going to yell at you, reminding you that you're getting a little slow here. But that's okay, because we desperately need to get this thing down. So we can come over here and activate the approach. So now I pushed it, just like that. So now it's looking for that flight plan. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of power. It's going to snap on to our approach just like that in a moment. I think we powered through that a little aggressively. I should have been a lot more gradual with that. There we go. Delightful. And now we're starting our approach. Altitude holds. It's going to be flashing at us, giving us a heads up that we're significantly under. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start slowing us down here. Slow it down. And there we can see, right on the left, you can see we've captured it. So now we are in automatic mode. We're making our way down. We're going to continue slowing down and kind of getting the aircraft all nice and dirty for us. I can come down here and you can see we need to slow down quite a bit, about 180. So that looks good to me. Landing gear down. That's usually the first thing I like to drop. Landing gear coming down. We're going to make sure we set our power back up to go around in case we need it. You can see right here that we've got it to take off power in the event that we need to get going in a hurry. Go ahead and start bringing in some of my lovely flaps. There's a little line there to remind you where your flap setting is. Going to bring up a little bit of power. Once those gear come down, this thing starts getting really slow. There we go. You can see our flight path. Looks pretty good. I love how just short the wheels are on this thing. It's ridiculous. And there's our runway directly off the nose. Feeling pretty confident. Pull the throttle back a little bit more. Bring on our next click. And now we're going to start slowing down to our approach speed. If you remember from our performance page, we're looking at 101 knots. We could probably do 106 without too much trouble. All right, hands on the controls. Get ready, get ready. Everything's ready. Slowing down smoothly. Remember, the throttle on this is a little touchy. It's just the way that the people who designed the aircraft in the flight sim decided to do it. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of power here. I don't need much. I just need enough to basically make it happy. Now, depending on how your throttle is set up for reverse, you might have to kind of fiddle with everything a little bit here. There we go. Put one click of flat power in here. It's going to be just a little bit. Like I said, that's basically running on idle thrust right now, if you want to kind of think about it. Just a little bit more power. You really have to be gentle with the power increases. Like if I give it that, like that, you can see that was about 2% of torque. 2% of torque is going to be the difference between an appropriate landing speed and too fast. Like it's incredible. It's about 21%. All right, let's do all of our idiot checks real quick. That looks good to me. Looks good, looks good. Got no orange lights above my head. Looks good to me. Central bus is running smoothly. Everything is good. Speed is actually we're almost perfect here. I'm not going to lie. And keep in mind, this is an RNAV approach. This is not a via ILS or anything along those lines. Nice and smooth, nice and comfortable. Loosen the grip. Remember, don't fight it. Nice and gentle fingers whenever you're doing any form of an approach here. But you can see just how easy this airplane makes it for you once you kind of get the thing on. There's our everything's kicking in. Here we go. Good time to experiment with. I'm going to play with this right when I'm trying to land. Ha ha! Don't be that person. All right, getting a little fast. I'm going to pull the throttle back a little tiny bit. Generally, when we make adjustments, that's close enough. And we're going to go take over to manual. Again, this becomes a visual approach at this point. There we are. Looking good, looking good. I got 2 whites, 2 reds. Now, one of the cool things is, actually one of the things I find struggle with this airplane is trying to get this thing in the last couple feet on account of the fact that with this aircraft, you have very stubby landing gear. So it's going to feel very strange.
100,
Scratch my nose.
50, 40, 30,
Idle.
20, 10.
Remember, you get very low. So nose up is this. This is nose up. This is it. Gonna finish settling. Full reverse. Let the front wheel come down. Reverse release. Do not stand on the brakes if you accidentally go backwards. Easy on the brakes, easy on the brakes. And we're just gonna gently come right off the runway there. So as you can see, this is a very solid aircraft. You know, it does everything really, really well. We could have come in much, much shorter. You can see we kind of hung out like an extra 500 feet or so because we hit that point. We really could have used the end of the runway and landed on the numbers and stopped within the first 1,000 feet if we had to. But it gives you an idea of just how effective an aircraft this is for its designed purpose. Enjoy.